My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC picks and DraftKings lineups run by professional fighters and MMA insiders. Every week, I join Nick Newell, professional fighter, professional model, and ESPN top 10 guest, along with Dan Kramer, UFC fighter, Bellator fighter, Ultimate Fighter alumni, and Jacob Lyons, a skinny kid from Indiana. And we break down every single fight, the betting odds, the DraftKings picks, and we set you up for success. Tonight, we're breaking down Fight Night Rozenstruik versus Gane. Next up at UFC Fight Night, Rozenstruik versus Gane, we have Ramazan Kurmagomedov, not Nurmagomedov, versus Alex Cowboy Oliveira. This is another fun one. We don't have DraftKings money yet because this is sort of a last-minute replacement. Ramazan is taking this on short notice, and he's the favorite. So this is an interesting matchup. It's very hard for me to go against either Cowboy in any of their fights. But Nick, I'm going to throw it to you right out of the gate. What are your thoughts here? Do you think short notice works well for him, or do you think Alex Oliveira does what he does?
Well, Alex Oliveira is weird because sometimes he shows up and sometimes he doesn't. And he looks beautiful. He beats someone like Max Griffin. Peter Sabata's been hot. He beat Peter Sabata. He has wins over Carlos Condit, Ryan LaFair, Tim Means, Will Brooks. Like, you go through, he's fought all these really tough guys. Ramazan hasn't fought the same level of competition. If you look, he's got I think a split decision win on the Contender Series versus Jordan Williams. I think that was up a weight class. I could be wrong. I was at middleweight, and he's fought guys with okay records his last couple, and before that he beat some guys with some pretty good records. But it's like someone that's fought the best, like really good guys, and is inconsistent versus a young guy that hasn't really been tested and is undefeated. I'd have to see the odds on this. Before I can decide whether or not to put it in my lineup. But if I had $100, I would put it on Oliveira.
Yeah, I think, and that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. My lineup right now obviously doesn't have them in it. I would have to see what Oliveira costs. I am not going to put Ramazan in my lineup regardless of his cost. It would really come down to, is Oliveira in the 7-something range? If so, I'll scoop him right up. I agree. He's very inconsistent, and he hasn't looked great lately. He actually missed weight in his last fight. He hasn't looked great, honestly.
Well, but can I say something? Let me add one more. I'm gonna if I could pick, I would pick Kurmagomedov because I saw that Oliveira has like 14 kids. I think they said he legitimately has like 9 or 10 kids. And I have 2 children, and that is hard as hell. To focus. I could never imagine having 10 children.
Yeah, well, he has 10 kids with like probably, I think, 10 different women too. That's like
oh boy, baby, he's going out. He's going out with a 6-shooter.
10 kids and 10 wives.
There we go. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly, he's the Cromartie of MMA. So I just think he hasn't looked great lately. He missed weight in his last fight. But with that being said, I'm picking him to win. And really it's because he has those flashes of brilliance. And the flash is either a full fight or even just a few minutes inside of a fight. And, Ramazan's taking this on short notice. And this is just an immediate giant step up in competition, right? Giant leap forward in competition overnight on a few days' notice. I just think it's too much. This is a full training camp for Oliveira. He's an actual vet with a ton of abilities, and he was ready to go. I just think it's too much, too early for Ramazan. So I'm picking Oliveira to win. I am throwing my $100 at him at plus 130, and depending on the DraftKings cost, I may have him in my lineup as well. Jacob, you're shaking your head. I'm not going to give you this yet. I'm going to go to Dan first, and then we'll go to you. So Dan, what are your thoughts on this? You going vet or newcomer seizing the opportunity?
I mean, I think Nick nailed it when he said it really just depends what Oliveira shows up. I mean, the guy could be one of the best in the world one day, and then 2 fights later he misses weight and shows up and doesn't look like himself. So if I could get a peek on his training camp or call one of his 10 different girlfriends and find out what he's been doing, I would feel much more confident in picking him. I think he's the better fighter. If he shows up in shape and prepared, I think he will win this fight. And I think Kurmagomedov is going to be very good one day. He's an up-and-coming star. You can tell they have him. They're counting him as a prospect. I think he's training with Almeida and Frankie Edgar now. So the combination of Oliveira potentially being in shape and ready to go and how good he is, plus Ramazan taking it on short notice, I'm picking Oliveira. Not very confident, though, until I see what sort of shape he's in. So my $100 would be on him. I may include him in my lineup, depending what the DraftKings numbers come out at. But I'm definitely going to search the interwebs to find out if he's been training somehow. Because if I find something that shows that he's in shape, I'm definitely putting some money on him.
Yeah, it's always tricky with some of these guys that have all the ability in the world but just aren't consistent. So Jacob, you were shaking vigorously, so I'm guessing you're going Ramazan, but why don't you go ahead and break it down?
I mean, I was going to try and give you credit, Angelo, because I think you nailed it on this fight as far as the short notice fight. I wish this guy had a full camp Ramazan, because that's the only thing that worries me. And it shouldn't be a huge deal, with those Dagestani Russians. And he's not a Nurmagomedov, but he is a Magomedov. And he's got the same style of wrestling. I saw him do the same thing. Khabib puts him against the fence, wraps up his legs. That short notice is just the only thing that really worries me with this fight. You guys mentioned as well, his Contender Series victory was a split decision win that everyone thinks he lost. Dana even was complaining about it, said he would have signed Jordan Williams, who beat him. He said, I wish I could sign Jordan Williams because the refs got it wrong, but I can't sign somebody after a loss. But that's a different story. Ramazan, I think you nailed it again, Angelo, with the level up in competition against Alex. But I still think he's going to find a way to win this fight. I think he's just going to get him on the ground, control him, and I would put my $100, even my $100 on the 145. I'm going to check his cost. If his cost is, that 8,100, I could see a spot in the lineup for him because he is a wrestler. But that short notice just really kind of worries me, the level up in competition. So I pick him to win Ramazan, but neither one of them in my lineup right now, depending on.
One thing I'll say about the short notice, I think I've said on a couple of the other podcasts we did, is this guy, he knows he's a UFC prospect. He's training at a camp with a bunch of UFC fighters. He's got to know that he's on a short list for a phone call. So you have to imagine he's in at least decent shape. I mean, he could potentially be in fight ready shape right now with the.
Yeah, I don't think, to me, it's not really the in shape thing, because all those Russians it seems like they never get tired anyway. To me, it's just, I wish he had a little bit more time to prepare for Alex. Yeah, for, just a little bit, at least a little bit.
Oliveira's a hell of a first fight. A hell of a first fight in the UFC, right?
When you're in practice, you go with all different random people all the time, and you have to adapt to their style. So when you train, you get used to that. I don't think it's a big deal. I actually think if you're in shape and you take a fight on short notice, is a benefit, because your body's not as run down. Because I started thinking about fights, and I've had times where I just trained too crazy and I went overboard. And even people telling me to slow it down, I'm like, I don't know. And then I have days where I'm in pretty good shape and I'm well rested. And I go out there and I just style on everyone because I feel great. I'm confident. I'm in good shape. So depending on if he's in training, if he's in good shape, I don't think the short notice thing is really a big deal.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky for me. I'm closer to Jacob on this, where I don't think it's about physically in shape. I don't even think it's about time to prepare for a specific opponent, because I agree with you, Nick. Those days are almost gone unless you're fighting an incredibly one-dimensional fighter. I think it's more just the mental like preparedness of, I'm going to fight who is a top 15 guy on the planet and has been for a long time, just like that. So that's where I think the short notice is a problem. I don't think he'll get tired. I don't think, especially somebody as well-rounded as Oliveira, there was nothing he was going to do in camp anyway for this fight. Oliveira can do all of it. So I think it's more, he's taking it on short notice, and this is just a giant leap forward. And Oliveira is a name. He's been around for a while. He's fought some of the best. He's beaten some of the best. He's lost to some of them. I think that may be too much too soon, but we'll see what happens. The two pro fighters both say it's not really that big of a deal, especially nowadays. So we'll see. It's an interesting one. These odds are probably accurate, and that's mostly because of what Oliveira's looked like recently. He hasn't looked great recently, but we'll see what happens. He's a live dog for sure, but you never know who's going to show up. Before you go, check out the description below. In there, we have links to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, and more importantly, to our DraftKings League. Check out the league, join the league, participate in the contests, and as we get going and as you start winning, we're going to start handing out gift cards and participating and doing things like that. So check those out. Every week, there are drops on every fight card. So make sure you check out this channel and our social media on Saturday before the fights start so that you have our most updated lineups and picks.